my dudes, how you doing? I hope you're having a damn good day. Welcome back to the channel, and today we'll be chatting about Tottenham's 4-2-3-1 formation that they used on the weekend versus Brentford. Now, I did watch the game. I was very impressed with some moments, some elements of it, and then there were others where I was like, that's a bit shaky. Mainly Vicario. Now, I know he's a young goalkeeper, but my goodness, he did make a few mistakes. And apparently, this is through the boy expressions, of course, he even said that Vicario hasn't kept a clean sheet yet, and that was including pre-season. So I'm like, oh my goodness. So there are going to be growing pains for this team going forward, but it is a young team. They are looking to try and recruit young, good talent that can help grow with the club, of course, now that Harry Kane is left. So let's hop on into it. If you can, hit the like button, subscribe if you are new. That would be damn near fantastic. But just having a look at the team going forward, we had Richarlison up front, Maddison as a number 10, the out-and-out number 10. It's not like a number 10 that's on the right, it's an out-and-out number 10 that can drift left, right, stay central, drop deep. That's his role. We've got Heung-min Son, recently named the captain of Tottenham. We've got Bissouma, who, by the way, was absolutely phenomenal in the midfield versus Brentford. I was so impressed with him. We've got Oliver Skip, Kulusevski, of course, Emerson Royal. He didn't look too bad, if you ask me. We had Romero, Van der Ven, also didn't look too bad, but had shaky moments. And then, of course, Destiny Udogie, who I have a lot of confidence in, will be one of the best left backs in the world when he comes of age. I mean, he's only 21 years of age. And then, of course, we've got Vicario, we've got Solomon Perisic. Did you guys know that Perisic was right-footed, by the way? I did not know. This entire time, I was like, he's left-footed, of course. He's a left wing back. He's mainly played on the left-hand side his entire career for Croatia. He's a left wing back as well in the World Cup. So when I found out that he's actually right-footed, I was like, oh, that's news to me. Anyway, we've got Saar, we've got Højbjerg, we've got Foster, Porro, and of course Sanchez, who did come on. And I thought he played fairly well, to be honest. Although Tottenham fans seem to not like him. I don't know, it just is what it is. But as you can see there, that is the formation, that is the lineup that they went with against Brentford. Of course, I think maybe bringing in Højbjerg could be a bit better. Maybe from time to time playing Son as an out-and-out number 9 could be a little bit better than maybe playing Perisic on the wing, or maybe Sessegnon when he comes back from injury. I don't know, but maybe we see Son as a number 9 this season going forward. As you can see there, the formation I've gone with for this set of tactics is a wide 4-2-3-1, as you can see. So 2 centre backs, 2 full-backs, 2 wide midfielders, 2 DMs, 1 cam, and of course 1 striker. Now, one thing I will say with the tactics going forward was I was very, very impressed with the pressing. Like the minute Tottenham lost the ball or there was a misplaced pass, the midfield was on it. Maddison, surprisingly, was very much on it. He was very aggressive, and maybe it's the new leadership role that he's got within Tottenham. Of course, he was named, I think, one of the vice captains along with Romero, of course, Son being named captain. So I think maybe that responsibility is also like, just nudged him a bit more, just to show a bit more work and ethic and effort, I should say. So I was very impressed with the press after the loss of possession. Every time there was a bad pass or something, Tottenham were on it, the midfield was on it, the forwards would press up very high and nicely. And also their work backwards as well was fantastic. Of course, the width wasn't the widest. Of course, your wingers in this situation were probably holding the width of the play going forward with your inverted fullbacks. Of course, I'm very impressed with the likes of Emerson Royal as well as Destiny Udogie to link up with the midfield. So, like, defensively wise, your width's going to be quite compact and narrow. Of course, Ange Postecoglou, he wanted to try and make Brentford work extra hard, and I think we will see that in the future as well as the team progresses and gets used to playing this way of football, of course. And then as for the depth, I think, again, once the team gets used to it, you will see Ange Postecoglou instill a much, much higher line. More or less what Eric Ten Hag did last season, where it was a bit of a feeling out process. You don't want to go gun-ho and instill your tactics and say we live or die by these tactics, because then a Brentford does happen and you lose 4-0. I mean, today, Brentford, they were very good with being able to counter-attack, and maybe on another day they end up scoring 1 or 2 of those opportunities that they ended up missing, but at the same time, I think Ange Postecoglou is going in with a bit more caution to how he would more or less want to play. I mean, at Celtic, they played very high lines. So with this, you're going to more or less try and play a mid-block if you want to try and recreate the 4-2-3-1 that you saw on the weekend, of course. As for the build-up play, it's set to balanced. Of course, a nice slow build-up play would be great, but of course, Tottenham, they do like to break. They do have a lot of pacey players up front. I mean, Kulusevski was one of them, Son another, Richarlison, and of course, you've got the number 10 in Maddison, putting the strings, being able to find those balls. So you can have it on slow possession, or slow build-up I should say, but it is going to be a possession-based style of football where you can have that opportunity to break. That's why it's set to balance, so you can break on a faster pace, or you can also slow things down and just control play, pass it through the final phases of the field and work it up to the goal, of course. As for the width, it's set to 70. Like I said, your wingers will more or less be holding the width in this situation, in this set of tactics, whilst your fullbacks look to invert. But when they look to invert, the midfield will be nicely wide spread out. Of course, you'll have Udogie helping out Basuma. You'll have Emerson Royale being helping out the likes of Oliver Skip in this situation. So it does help quite a lot in trying to stretch the opposition's defense, making sure that they're working extra hard to try and cover the ground that is lost whilst your team is nice and stretched out, passing the ball through the lines, of course. And then, of course, players in the box. There were quite a few players that bombed on into the box. Of course, it's set to 8. As for corners and free kicks, as per always, it is set to 4. So as for the instructions going forward, Vicario here, of course, is a sweeper keeper, and we did see him run off of his line multiple times. There were a few times where the communication was just terrible, and that's one thing that they will have to improve. Of course, you've got a guy from Argentina, you've got a guy from Italy, and then you've got a guy who's literally just come into the team that speaks Dutch. So obviously there is going to be a little bit of a language barrier there, but they need to learn to work together, because I do think that Udogie, Van Ven, Romero, of course, and then Royale will probably be the back four. Maybe you slide in Pedro Porro to that right-hand side, but mainly Vicario will be the goalkeeper. So there were a few touch-and-go moments, but with the sweeper keeper, it's high risk, high reward all the time. And I think going forward, once he settles into the team, him being a sweeper keeper makes the most sense. And of course, like I said, the tactics that will be instilled in this, obviously they'll be a bit more progressive going forward. In the future, of course, and you will look to have a much higher line, but you are playing a somewhat high mid-block at the moment, so you do need a sweeper keeper for those situations. As for Van de Ven and Romero, they are set to their base set of instructions. Of course, Romero, we know he loves to go on his mazy runs, but that was when there was a back 3. Now there's a back 4, and more times than not, it's going to be a back 2 with your fullbacks bombing on forward. So he can't actually have that reckless breakneck spring on forward and try and overload and cause craziness all over the midfield. He has to learn to hold his line, hold the back line, be the captain at the back, of course. He is one of the captains now, so he has to have a bit more of a mature role going forward, and more or less that's how you get the best out of him from that situation. As for Udogie and Royale, they have the same set of instructions. They are both going to join the attack. There were multiple times, especially down the left-hand side, where Udogie was running past Son multiple times, sometimes overlapping, but mainly in this case, in this scenario, you want him to be inverting, joining up with the midfield, of course, and of course he is going to invert. As you can see here for Emerson Royale, join the attack and of course invert. You want to try and help this midfield too, try and overload, cause overloads in certain areas, try and more or less hurry the opposition, try and create a bit of panic in the opposition when they have the ball, especially in your half. You'll see the like of Royale and Udogie will try and almost out-muscle and just try and be a bit more physical with the opposition. So as for Oliver Skip, of course we are talking about young Oliver. He is set to cut past him and stay back while attacking, aggressive interceptions. He was very, very good in the midfield. I thought he could have been a little bit better, but he was pretty damn good, very solid. He's also set to cover the wing, so he will try and cover for the likes of Royale if he's too far forward, and then of course he's going to stick to position. So he's going to be the guy who more or less is in and around. Of course, with the likes of Basuma, they're going to try and hold their positions, try and shield the back four if the fullbacks have bombed on. But speaking of Basuma, this is the role for him, and I think this is more or less the player that Tottenham thought they were buying last year. So if he can more or less string together a few more games like this, I think he will be a nailed-on certified starter by the halfway point of the season. Anyway, he is set to cut past against get forward, so he's going to be more of the box-to-box. He's going to try and knit the midfield defensive-wise, going forward with the offensive part of the midfield and get the ball forward. Of course, he's also going to have aggressive interceptions, so he was very, very good, like I said, with just being able to just put a foot in, be a bit dogged about his approach, and that was fantastic, especially with a team like Brentford, who will try and win anything and everything. 50-50 balls, that is their bread and butter, you could possibly say. And then, of course, he's got the more or less same set of instructions of cover the wing and then stick to position, so he will look to try and cover for Udogie when he does bomb on forward. As for Madison, the main man, he got 2 assists, by the way, 2 assists, very good. He is set to come back on defense, stay back, stay on the edge of the box, free roam, and then of course all interceptions. Now we saw multiple times, and I think that will more or less be the role that he will have, especially in this formation where he did drop quite deep. He was almost playing with the centre backs at times, collecting the ball, picking it up, spraying passes left, right, and centre. So that is why I have him set to come back on defense, Of course, down the edge of the box, Maddison has worked magic in the past with being able to just collect the ball on the edge of the box, firing crosses, firing shots, score potential goals, also collect the ball, rotate it around, make sure that the phases of play are being ticked over quite nicely, and of course maintaining possession is another thing. But then mainly free roam. Like there were times where, like I said, Maddison was playing as a DM, there were times where he was playing on the left wing, there were times where he was playing on the right wing, and I think more or less at Leicester, they did get that out of him, but then when Brendan Rodgers started restricting him and saying, no, you only need to be on the right-hand side, it kind of took away from the good qualities that Maddison does have. And I think Ange Postecoglou, in this system especially, more or less has found a way for Maddison to succeed and get the best qualities out of him. Because, of course, looking at this team without Harry Kane, it's Son and Maddison now, and you could possibly throw in a Kulusevski, but those are your two guys, those are your main guys, and you need to get the best out of Maddison, of course. But speaking of Son, the captain, of course, he is set to come back on defence, stay wide. Like I say, he's going to try and hold the whip. But of course, he's also going to look to come short from time to time, link up play with Maddison, potentially cutting inside, playing more off the shoulder of the striker. Maybe you might see him as a striker going forward. But more or less, on the weekend, this is what I saw from him. And then, of course, he's going to get into the box, making angled runs into the back post, of course. And then as for Kulusevski, he is set to come back on defence, stay wide, a balanced support, of course, get into the box, and normal interceptions, very similar to Son. And then finally, Richarlison, the striker that doesn't score goals. Look, I think it's the first game, you can't really judge him, but he wasn't very good. There was a time where I saw Maddison like outside foot pass, right for Richarlison in front of goal, and he took too long, and Brentford were able to recover the ball. And it was frustrating because I know Richarlison is a really good player, I really do. But he seems to be lacking confidence, and maybe Ange can get the best out of him. But basically what I did see from him was he did have like a bit of a mixed role in terms of staying central and also being able to drift wide for the likes of Son to cut inside, as well for the likes of Kulusevski to also have space on the inside. But at the same time, he is that central role going forward. He wasn't really like the guy to running behind, but I know he can do it, therefore I have set it to mixed. But mainly, his holder play wasn't the worst, it was pretty damn decent, and I think going forward, his holder play will improve under Ange. But mainly his pressing, his running off the ball, of course, was great, being able to hurry the back line up of the opposition, of course, close down passing lanes, of course. So he was very solid at doing that. And of course, he's going to be out there ball. He is going to be the guy who's more or less the chain or the link in the chain that's going to try and string together the likes of Maddison, Son, Kulusevski, and maybe Tottenham go and spend 50 million on a new striker, maybe. But at the same time, last season you spent 60 million on Richarlison, so try and get the best out of him first before you try and think of somebody else. So of course, this is the 4-2-3-1 formation under Ange Postecoglou, the one that we saw against Brentford on the weekend. I would love it, absolutely love it, if you could hit the like button, subscribe if you are new, or alternatively, if you did not enjoy this content, hit the dislike button. I can see those who don't like the thing, and what happens is, it makes me improve. So, of course, until the next time, my dudes, I hope you have a smashing damn day. Hit those videos over there, that would be absolutely fantastic. But yes, I'm out.